Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you can see it and purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. And today we're discussing the 2018 Jaeger LeCoultre Polaris Chronograph, part of a 50th anniversary series designed in homage to the definitive 1968 Polaris diving alarm. It's also a series that reimagines the Polaris, as there was no original chronograph, and this 42mm stainless steel watch helps to advance the state-of-the-art in Polaris design by continuing the series in the modern era. So 42mm in diameter, but reasonably slim. The watch is only 12.1mm thick, and that despite being a complicated chronograph and automatic winding. There's a nice slope to its bezel as well as sapphire, so this one slides easily under a dress cuff. Lug-to-lug, it's very nicely constrained at only 48.7mm. The spacing between the lugs is 21mm. There are a couple of interesting OEM strap options, but you might also want to explore the aftermarket, find something that really pops against that blue dial base. I should also emphasize that the bracelet, which is a piece distinctive of JLC, and we'll talk about why that is in a moment, but the bracelet does flare a little bit. If you were to measure it outer extremity to outer extremity, this is as far as it will fold down. You're going to find it's a bit of a wider watch across the wrist at 54.2mm, but I would still recommend this watch even on the bracelet for a wrist as small as 14.5 centimeters in circumference. The bracelet's nicely made. The three-link design is actually a little bit of an optical illusion, as it's built kind of like a Nautilus bracelet. It has a primary link in an H pattern, all of high polish, with a center link that is satin finished for contrast. What appear to be pin sleeves on the flank are anything but. These are spring bars, so you can actually size the bracelet using a strap tool. It's a clever design by JLC. It's also a functional design, as the big gaps on the underside vent the wrist on a hot day, releasing moisture, heat, sweat, grit, while avoiding the pinching of skin or the pulling of hair. This basic clasp design has been around since the Reverso Grand Sports of 1998, and it's still one of the best in the business. First, there's the contrast between polish and satin. It's handsomely made, and the quadruple triggers ensure that this one is staying robustly closed. By the way, here are your pin snaps with spring-loaded bar action at center, but this is staying resolutely closed until you open it with all four triggers. Each side of the bracelet features a half-link adjustment that is tool-free. So it's the equivalent of removing or adding a half-link. So you take them both out, it's like you've added one full link back to the bracelet. It's a smart system and allows you to precisely size or even fine-tune on the fly. The bracelet's nicely integrated into the lug. As you can see, strong lugs, evocative of the original Polaris. This and the dial characters are probably where the watch hews most closely to the original. They're strong, they're sharp cut, the bevel gloriously expands from the mid-case outward, and you can see there's a little invert ducktail or a down tuck to the end of the squared off lug. Satin finished mid-case. I like that JLC stepped out the lugs from the case. It's not a massive undifferentiated metal. There is a strong vertical character line at both ends, and of course the profile of the end link tracing the arc of the case, but also the slope of the lugs. The bezel is very minimal. There's hardly anything there, but what's there is of high polish, handsome accent, and there's a slight domed lip to a very lightly boxed section sapphire. The dial is spectacular and worth the price of admission by itself. Why? Well, first you've got the Polaris content. You have the combination of the indices and the twin Arabics anchoring 12 and 6 o'clock. You also have a tachymeter scale outboard. That's a sporty touch. You can use it for gauging the speed of a rather fast-moving object over a standing kilometer or mile. You have the twin registers. It's a vintage-style chronograph, so that the balance as well as absence of a date make this one for the traditionalists. The timepiece does feature a couple of different finishes. There is a metallic finish to the sloped tachymeter scale. There is a granular or pebbly finish that is exquisite, and that's about the hour track. And then the center dial has almost a glossy character. It's somewhere between lacquer gloss and metallic luster. It's very appealing, and there's tremendous depth to the dial, from the tachymeter down to the wells of the countersunk subregisters at center. This is a handsome timepiece, and all of the indices as well as the JLC logo are appliqué, not printed or transferred. Turn it all over and, well, let's take a quick look at the crown. JLC with a double knurling and vintage-inspired lozenge or rectangular pushers that are double finished with both satin and polish. A handsome touch, but the surprise is out back. For the first time in the new Polaris series, JLC has made its 750 series of in-house chronograph calibers visible through the display case back. 100 meters water resistant. It's a true sports watch. And you can see that it uses a tungsten winding mass, linear Cote de Genève across both bridges. And let's see how close I can get here while keeping this one in focus. But linear Cote de Genève across the winding mass as well as the rotor. It's a unidirectional winder with ceramic rotor bearings, which is to say those two features together make it a very efficient winder. Twin mainspring barrels, 65-hour power reserve. It has a 4 hertz beat rate, so it beats away at 28.8. It has stop seconds. It also has both a column wheel and a vertical clutch, so you can see the column wheel and its crenellated towers acting against the levers and horns of the chronograph system, and then the vertical clutch lets you engage with a smooth action. There's no jump or stagger to the chronograph. It's also possible to leave the chronograph running thanks to the vertical clutch. There is no additional hazard to the movement. That's a nice feature to have. The balance beats away with a free-sprung architecture, so it's very shock resistant, but it also takes a precise regulation in multiple positions. And that brings us to the Master 1000 Hours control for this JLC in-house caliber. It is extensively tested not as a bare movement as with the COSC chronometer, but as a fully cased-up watch for power reserve, winding efficiency, function, chronometric precision, and water resistance. So this one has been through the ringer before it makes it to your wrist. All of the screws are heat blued, not chemically dyed. This is a nice looking movement, even if I will admit there's a discrepancy between the size of the movement and the size of the case. That's just about the only criticism I can level. In every other respect, I have to say, with this Polaris family, but especially this blue dial chronograph, JLC really nailed it for 2018. See this one and make it yours on the watch box. 2018 Jaeger LeCoultre Polaris Chronograph. Blue by day, green by night.